Alrighty. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? Let's okay, so we have our little we're in the kitchen today, so we're making some pizza dough. I'm kind of excited. Pizza dough is always super fun to make. Let's just make sure the YouTubes are getting everything here real quick. I'm just gonna playing with my TV. All right, so we look good there. See a few of you in there. Say hi in the chat if you're hanging out. Let us know. So I know I'm not talking to the empty room, as it were. All right, cool. So let's see. All right. My internet's being a little funky here. It seems to be. So we will. All right. Looks like it's stabilized there. Sometimes streaming during the middle of the day just gets a little on the chunky side, doesn't it? So hopefully that is not going to be the case, and we'll be able to have some fun. So, all right. So what are we doing here? We are cooking some pizza dough. I tend to make things with flour with you guys. All right. The room is not digitally empty. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And Joe, welcome. All right. So we're going to start off. We're going to make our pizza dough first because it needs to rest a bit. Now I have some kind of sitting aside that we'll use after the second rise. But for the first one, we'll kind of get started and use this guy right here. Now, the recipe for pizza dough, there are 100 different versions if you really want to find them. The one I've kind of settled on is the Wolfgang Puck version. Seems to be pretty solid. I like the flavor. It tends to get nice and crispy and things like that. So I very much enjoy that guy. So I highly recommend it. Let's see. So we have our food processor, or I should say our mixer. I'm not using the food processor. You could do this version with that, but I don't like to knead by hand, and I have a dough hook attachment, so let's use it. All right, now the other thing is this is going to be Wolfgang's recipe. This is like a double batch, so I'm kind of getting a little bit more than you would normally get. So for instance here, you want, let's see, 3 cups of all-purpose flour. This is 6, and the salt is in here already. All right. And we're going to give that a little whiskey. Not the good whiskey, the actual whiskey. All right. And that's just so that the salt gets evenly distributed throughout the entire dough. One of the other key things for pizza dough is you kind of want to have a little bit of sweetness. A lot of our white breads have some. Honey is great. This also is one of those things that helps us get a nice crispy crust. Now for like this whole batch, I'm only going to do like 2 tablespoons. So 1, 2 tablespoons. And it doesn't need to be fancy honey. Like this is just my honey bear. It's not my nice local stuff. Doesn't need to be anything super fancy. All right. Once you've got that, we are going to get our yeast. How much salt in the 2 cups? It was about, let's see, he likes a teaspoon. So for me, it was a good 3-finger pinch of kosher salt. I just always use kosher and throw it in. Now, we have our water that we're going to bloom our yeast in. So we're going to take the temperature. This should be room temp. Yeah, so it's in the 60s. I'm going to throw it in the microwave for a little bit. Now I'm only going to throw it in for about 30 seconds. And the reason is because you don't want the water too hot. And I made this mistake when I first started baking. And the problem is that you can actually kill the yeast. So you don't want to do that. You just spend all that time hunting down good active dry yeast. We just want to kind of get them happy and get them going again. The honey could go in with the water too. That's a great place for it. Sugar and yeast like each other. They get along. However, salt and yeast are not friends. So never salt this water. Never. Okay. Now I only want this water to be around 100 degrees. All right. So I'm not going to put it in a kettle and I'm not going to boil it. So it's about 80. We're going to put it back in. Put it in for another 30 seconds. All right. Then we have our yeast. Grab my kitchen scale. All right, now it's going to be 2 cups of water for the double batch, which is how much we're doing. Again, just warm. Just make sure it's not hot because yeast will die when it gets like in the, I want to say like 120, 130 range. Let's see, 101.1. So it's running a slight temperature, as it were. Don't worry, we might not like it, but yeast certainly does. All right, I'm going to put that on my scale. And we're going to measure out 14 grams of the dry active yeast. I keep this guy in my freezer. Helps it last longer, stay active longer. And we use grams because grams are a lot more sensitive and the best measure. If you buy the little packets of yeast, 7 grams is usually 1 packet of like the Fleischmann's yeast. And you want to be pretty close. All right. I'm going to give this a good stir. Make sure we get all the yeast in there. Scrape it down. My best spatula I ever owned is my finger. All right. So we're going to let that bloom for roughly 10 minutes. Of course, I left my good timer downstairs. That's all right. I have a phone. If I have a phone, I have a timer. So what can I say? So let's get that. All right, you really want this to bloom certainly for about 10 minutes, okay? Because what that's going to do is that's going to help activate the yeast and get them having a little party again. I'm going to put this back in my little airtight container, back in my freezer, and that'll be good. All right, now, while this guy is just sitting here, this is all that we need to make pizza dough. That's it. So just be careful. Don't overdo the water and then take your time. Now, if you want to do this by hand, you could. It's going to be a lot of work. Not going to lie. The dough hook is great. If you have a food processor and don't have a mixer, that's completely fine. Just do it in the mixer, pulse, 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 and then once it starts coming together, you can pull it out and work with it. And also be ready to adjust either the flour or the water, because sometimes, depending on your altitude, depending on the flour you use, there's a lot of variables going on here. So you want to make sure that you can adjust that. And you have a little bit of play. And what we're looking for is a good, soft, firm dough when we're done. All right. But in the meantime, we can, let's get ready for our pizza sauce. So what I have here is I have my, unfortunately, generic brand whole peeled canned tomatoes. I'm very disappointed. I don't have my good ones, but I've used them all up, and I've been unable to source my good ones without spending a ridiculous amount of money. But that's okay. It's a start. So we're gonna take this now. Quick word on tomatoes. All I buy is whole peeled canned tomatoes. I generally like to get a good solid name brand, and whenever possible, when I'm doing something that is super like a good marinara or something, and I really want to use good quality sauce, I get what's called San Marzanos, which is a specific Italian plum tomato, which are delicious. They're a little sweet. They're just completely delicious. Now, why do I get whole peeled tomatoes? I don't buy puree. I don't buy crushed. I don't buy sauce. I don't buy diced, because I can do all of that with one can. Okay, if today we're going to be making sauce from this, and depending on how chunky you like your pizza sauce will depend what you do with it. But all I'm going to do is I'm just going to blend this down, and we're going to get down to our core sauce. Okay, now I like my pizza sauce really fresh and bright, so that means I want it to be slightly acidic. I'm not going to put any sugar in my sauce. I'm not a person who likes sugar in my pizza sauce, or any of my tomato sauce for that matter. So we're not going to do that. Not to mention our dough is going to be a little sweet anyway, right? So I got our canned tomatoes. I've got some diced onions. I did this ahead of time just to make life a little simpler. And then like one large clove of garlic that I just chopped up real quick. It was a very large clove, so you might need 2 like normal size cloves. So let's see, let's talk about our can here. So one thing that you may not do that we try to always teach our restaurant employees to always do is to clean your can. Okay, think about what's going to happen right now. If I open this can, and you probably do this like when you do tuna or anything, right, and the lid falls in, well, any contaminants that are on the outside of the can just went into your food. It's not cool. Nobody wants that. So get in the habit of, even before our current day and age, when this came in the house, it was like I wipe everything down when we get it from the grocery store. This is new normal. But I'm going to do it again. Maybe I'm not going to disinfect it, but if you have disinfectant wipes, absolutely. But we want to wash the can lid. All right, and we want to pay special attention to this edge, because this is where we're going to cut. Now, if that lid falls in my food, which it probably will do because it always does, I don't care. The other thing we'll tend not to do is, if we're going to use the product, we'll leave a little piece of the can lid attached, but that doesn't really work with the blender that we're going to use here. All right, if you're watching the yeast, you can see down here, pull it back a little bit. It's getting a little foamy on top. We like that. We like that. We kind of want to see a lot of foam across the whole thing. So looking good, looking good. All right, now, I don't care if that lid falls in. Okay, so we now have cans. Now, if I look in here, I have some liquid now, especially with off-brand. This liquid is probably not all tomato juice. It's probably a decent amount of water, which means when we cook our sauce, I'm going to have to cook it even further to get it really dense, but I might pull some of that off. But in here are just these plump, whole peeled tomatoes that you can crush, use for marinara. You can just chop them up loosely if you want to. Whatever you want. We're going to make a puree, so we're just going to do this guy. So I got my little stick blender. Now, again, I only have to buy one thing when I go to the store. I only need to buy one can, one type of tomato. And you can also get these in the really big, what we call number 10 cans, which are great for if you need to do large batches and things like that. They're roughly a gallon, so you're getting a lot in there. All right, and I'm just going to turn this on like medium. All right, and then I'm going to put it in before I start it. and then drop it down. If I just turn it on and drop it in, there's a reason I wear red, right? All right. And I'm just getting all the big chunks. And once I get all the big chunks, just like to tip it and run it for a few seconds. All right. Done deal. Now, I am a huge fan of immersion blenders. A couple thoughts is make sure you get one that's around 300 watts. All right. And I also like the one that has multiple attachments. This has like a single balloon whisk that attaches on the end. So if I need to whip a small batch of egg whites or anything like that, I can totally do that. All right. It also cleans up real easy, goes away. Much easier than dealing with a blender. All right. So our yeast is blooming. We're about 8 minutes. So we're gonna start getting this ready. Put my dough hook on. Crank up my bowl, and we're just gonna kind of get this running. Hopefully it's not too loud. Also helps if you plug it back in after you unplug it. All right, we're just gonna mix it up, get that honey going. Again, I could have put the honey in with the water, and I might wanted to have done that. Stuff, just checking, making sure our stream's still looking good. We're happy. Y'all are there. Hello, hello. All right. So now mine, I kind of have to tip a little bit just to kind of make sure it gets to the bottom every now and then. You can also stop and scrape. And then this should be on stir. I'm going to slowly pour in my water with my yeast. I don't want to dump. And you can start to hear the motor's starting to work a little bit. It's all right. This is, you don't need the big professional KitchenAid. But pizza dough will challenge a cheap mixer. So, because it tends to be pretty intense. All right, now just have a little water because the first batch I made with the recipe was a little dry, and this is kind of being what we call shaggy. So let me see, I have a little extra cam today. Thought you might like this so you can actually take a peek. Let's see what my view is. There you go. You can kind of see it's getting a little shaggy here. Starting to work a little too hard. I'm just gonna add a little bit, not much. Just like about a tablespoon at a time. A little more, not much. There we go. The idea being is that you want to adjust the dough as need be, okay? You want to make sure that you can kind of get that texture we want. All right. So now you can kind of see it's starting to come together. It's all starting to pull off the side, and that's what we're looking for. It's starting It's really starting to work, this guy. All right. Probably because I did the double batch. All right, so we're just going to finish this off. Once you get it in there, let's get this back. Be there when we make our sauce. There you go. All right, let's get rid of that. Yeah, David, it's totally makes it go about 10 miles an hour faster. Absolutely. All right, so our double batch is really pushing the edge of the envelope for our pizza dough here. I did a single batch, it was fine. We're just gonna knead this for a little bit. We don't have to go too crazy, but we wanna make sure. We want it to get smooth, so we're gonna take a few minutes. We're just gonna knead this really well. All right. Go. And thank you, David, for your comments the other day. That was very nice. I enjoy reading them whenever you post them. So I just wanted to make sure I called that out. And we got Patrick joining us. He's not designing building, he's watching cooking videos. Haha. I think I'm going to do that on the channel. I think I might put like all of Patrick's puns that we did, pontifications for the core shell, and put them all out there. So, all right, so this is getting smooth. All right, so we're getting Happy Town now. You can kind of feel it. Yep, you got to do that. That's required, by the way. We're gonna make a ball out of it, which means we're just gonna we're kind of taking the bottom and we're just kind of crumping it up. Oh, see, needs a few more minutes. That mixer, David, has been with me since the early 90s. One of my old bosses bought a new mixer for the restaurant and gave that to me. I was his chef. I was super excited, but I took it home. It was white, and then I was inspired by Alton Brown and got an airbrush out and made some flames. So that mixer is very, very old and very sentimental thing, right? Mom never had a mixer or anything, so that was like, I mean, even back then they were like $300. All right. Now we're just gonna walk around and make our bowl. Now this is a big dough ball here. All right, that's a lot of dough. This is enough for 8 pizzas, no lie. This is probably going to double in size. It's going to be a lot, but the cool thing about pizza dough is I can actually freeze it. So the plan is I'm going to use half of this, cut it. Once we do the next stage, I'm going to save it, and then that's going to be what we're going to cook for dinner tonight. Or in my case, give it to my neighbors today because I supply them with pizza dough. Hi, Doug and Lynn. And then the other 4 balls I'm just going to put right in the freezer. And then that way we have them should we need them. So we're going to cover this with a towel. Now we want a towel because we want gas to escape. I don't want to cover it with like plastic wrap and stuff. You can, if you do, just loosely cover, just lay it. It's just to keep things from falling in and to kind of help keep it warm in there. Okay, and we're going to put this in a warm spot of the kitchen, which is going to be like near our cooking pot. All right, so we have 2 things we need to do. We're going to make our pizza sauce, so let's get that cooking. And then we are going to make some toppings. And I think we're going to do a bacon chicken pizza, and then we will do a ham and cheese calzone. How does that sound? All right. Da, 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 da. All right. Oh, thank you. Just told me that apparently Game All Night is broadcasting right now. All right. So we are going to bring back Cooking Cam. So here we go. Boink. So over here on the stove, I have I want to be able to see your comments because you're so chatty. I have a TV in my kitchen that's on the wall that's right behind the camera, and that's where I watch you guys, so that you guys can have conversations with me. All right. Okay, so we have our pot. Now, I'm not making a ton of sauce, so I don't need a huge pot. This is my 5-quart Le Creuset. Love this guy. We're going to turn it on medium. All right. Now, if I use my bigger burner that's over here on the right side, I would even turn it lower, but this pot on that burner is super, super hot. Super hot. So we are going to just kind of let that go. Thanks, Patrick. I figured I could add a webcam. Hopefully it keeps things smooth. I mean, I'm running this off my laptop, so I don't think it's going to be too much work. We'll see. All right, so I got some extra virgin olive oil. I don't normally cook a lot of things with extra virgin olive oil, but pizza sauce, we're not going super high heat, so we're fine. We're completely happy. But if you're going to saute or anything, you want to just use regular oil. You don't necessarily want to use extra virgin because lower smoke point, the oil itself is going to not have any flavor. So all the flavors are going to cook off at high temps. So extra virgin should be used when you're going to be doing low to medium heat, and roasting is in there too. Like if you're roasting at 400 degrees, that's like the perfect temperature for the extra virgin. So if I'm doing that. Now cast iron pots need a little time to heat up, and you don't want to crush it with heat. All right. Now whether you're using whatever pan you're using, I want you to think of this. If anybody's ever used that pan, I don't know, like my in-laws had one that kind of had a dimple in the bottom. Okay, when you're in a restaurant sometimes, those pans literally turn into almost woks. They stop being flat. And the reason that happens is the pan gets too hot too fast. And then the metal expands, it has nowhere to go, so it boop, bubbles out. So that's not going to make a good even cooking surface, right? So treat your pans nicely, okay? Gently heat them, all right? This is only like on a medium. It's like on the high side of medium, and that's all this pan will stay at. Now, whether that's saute pans or anything like that, I want you to slow down, preheat them. When I cook with my big cast iron, sometimes I put it on while I'm prepping on very low heat and just kind of like let it come up to temp. All right, if you're not shocking it with just crank high heat, your pan is going to be so much better. Now, the only exception to that is boiling water. You can boil water in an aluminum pan on high heat as much as you want. What would I use for a higher heat? Well, it depends, David. I mean, it's really just about getting heat into the pan, not making the pan hot. Okay? So it's just starting to smoke. So we're going to throw in our diced onions first. All right. Now I don't really want to fry these, but I really want to sweat them. If you want a high heat to sear, now I'm blessed with gas heat, okay? Propane at that, so I get even hotter pans than normal. What would I use for oil? Veg. I would just use a veg or a canola. Those have higher smoke points, so they're going to be a lot better. Okay, you can easily go out and look for smoke points and find different options for that. Butter is probably one of the lower smoke points, and smoke point is when it's going to like burst into flames, catch fire. You know, if you've tried to cook something, you put something in the pan and all of a sudden it catches fire. Pan's too hot, oil catches fire, poof, you have that. But that also means you get everything that comes out with that. So you're going to get all that sharp and that bitter and everything else. So if you want to stick with olive oils, you could just use like a blend. Look on the olive oil, and where it says blended, that would be fine. But usually I just have like canola oil for that. All right, so my onions, you can see in here, they're like lightly done. They're about halfway to translucent. I'm gonna dump my garlic in now. All right, garlic cooks a lot faster than onions. So take your time with it. You don't want to overcook it. And we definitely don't want to burn it because then it's just going to be bitter. Now, pizza sauce, we're using dried herbs. So this is the stage where you add dried herbs, or you add any, what I like to call hard leaf herbs. So we are adding just a touch of rosemary. This is about half a teaspoon of basil, a pinch of rosemary. And because it's pizza sauce, we are going to go a little heavier on the oregano than I would normally do it. So this is about a teaspoon here going in. All right. The rosemary is going to give it a nice earthy flavor. All right. Now, we're going to lightly saute this. All right. And why I want to do this is the dried herbs need to kind of rehydrate a little bit. I'm a little light on oil, so I'm just going to drizzle a little bit in here. There's oils trapped inside the dried out leaves, and we want to break that out and open it up and kind of get these flavors to kind of commingle and start that process. If you drop it in, it'll just be like a tea leaf and you'll get some flavor, but you get so much more when you just give it this little moment or two of sauteing, just like that. Doesn't need to be very long. And now it's tomato time. All right. You can tell they're cheap tomatoes. The can is almost empty. Like I don't have to rinse it with water or anything. So, c'est la vie. It's what we have. You know, this is one of the challenges of cooking this time of year. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not willing to go to overcrowded stores right now. Like our Trader Joe's is just, no, it's not even worth going in. I'm not comfortable with it. All right, we're gonna turn the heat back up a little bit. So now we're up to about a medium heat. And I just wanna kind of get this to a simmer. And once it kind of gets to a simmer, then it's gonna be good and it's gonna be nice and bubbly. All right, then we'll drop it back down. If it gets a little crazy and it starts to get a little wonky, then what I'll do is I will actually cover it. But we'll see if we need to do that. All right, so our dough is over here. It's just going to be sitting here by the warmth. I don't want it like hot. It needs to sit for like half an hour. So we got a little time. We're gonna let it go. All right. And I'm just gonna keep stirring this until we start to get our simmer, and then I think we're gonna be pretty good. All right. So let's think about what else we have to cook. We need to cook our bacon. Pan is probably a little overkill. Just getting near our simmer town to have some fresh bacon. Now I'm not going to go crazy. I'm just going to do like 3 strips. We're not driving to Flavor Town or anything here. I promise. All right, so if you're looking here, you can just start to see we're just starting to get a nice little surface bubble. It's coming around the outside. I want to see that across the whole surface. All right. And then we'll just let it go. Now, pizza sauce tends to have a little more herbs and seasoning in it than like I would use for, say, tomato sauce. So, and if I was making a tomato sauce like I did last week, even though the video didn't go because apparently I was talking to a room and I had no microphone because we had a thunderstorm that knocked it out. But what you want to do is then adjust your seasoning. Like I don't use oregano in that stuff. Maybe a pinch, but not much. But I would use more basil, bay leaf, some thyme. Thyme always gives a nice earthy, kind of consistent flavor to it. All right, so we got that. We're gonna just back it down because I want this nice simmer the whole time. All right. 2. Let's all right. We'll give you back the new cooking cam. How's that? All right. So we'll kind of show you what's going on in the fry pan today. So before I even cut my bacon, I'm just going to turn this on a nice medium heat. Okay. We're not gonna fire it up. We're not gonna go crazy. Again, heat this pan up slowly. I love this pan. So this is new to me. Like the whole Teflon thing kind of came through. Did my research and realized I don't want Teflon in my house anymore. So I went out and got ceramic coated pans. I like 2 versions that I use at work when I'm teaching. One is a scan pan, which I enjoy, and this is a green pan, which you can pick up pretty much everywhere. My wife got it from Kohl's, and it's nice, it's solid. I have a little guy for eggs, and I have a bigger guy for omelets and stuff like this. But it's a really good non-stick pan. But no matter what non-stick pan you have, do not. If you learned something today, don't crank the heat, okay? Don't crank the heat. All right, so I'm just chopping the bacon into some strips that are about 1/4 inch thick. Yeah, I'm not trying to go too crazy here. All right, apparently I don't like to go crazy. That's my thing. All right, and we're just gonna get this in here, break them up. And we're gonna fry these guys up. Now it's going to cook on top of the pizza, but it's also going to have the, the sauce and the cheese potentially on there. So I don't want to go too far done. Like I'm not trying to make crispy bacon for something, but it will probably be. I probably want it like at least 75% of the way done. Now I cut raw product on my cutting board, so I'm going to clean that off because the next thing that's going to go on here will be a cooked thing. All right. That's how people cross-contaminate. Yeah, so David, the Teflon pans, they flake and they contain ingredients that can be carcinogenic. So, you all have had that Teflon pan that you scratch the bottom and where it flakes around the edge and stuff. And it's, even if it's like, might be true, it's not really worth the risk to me. And it was an excuse to buy new cookware. And this wasn't expensive. I mean, I think we only need a few pans in our life. I think you need a good cast iron Dutch oven, whether it's this guy. I would not recommend this guy for if you had one. I would get the big one, right? You definitely need a non-stick pan. That's a big important because, you know, we need to be able to saute things, eggs, and omelets, and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do French omelets next week and crepes. Omelets and crepes. Yeah, that'll be whatever. That'll be next week. So you need pans for that. And then also, I like a good stainless steel pan that's great for searing. And then, of course, like I call it grandma's cast iron. Like you need a good solid 12-inch Lodge cast iron pan. Great for searing things, especially if you're going to be doing any kind of like sous vide work or anything like that, which I will, again, maybe I'll do sous vide in the future too, because that's a great method of cooking. It doesn't cost a lot, and I think it's very effective. All right, so this guy is cooking. I have some chicken that I sounds great, that I cooked the other night that we didn't use, so I think it's going to be great on our pizza. So I'm just going to dice this up. All right. And again, how big you want your toppings on your pizza is, you know, I like to think like 1/2 inch, 3/8 in that range. So we'll load that in there. And then we have some ham. So ham is great. All right. Just getting a little sticky on it. I don't know what I did with my towel. All right, we're just gonna dice our ham. Now I'm gonna julienne this, which means I'm just gonna make some long strips because this guy is gonna be used in the calzone. So I kind of want it a little bigger. Chop it, chop it. I tend to like to get all my chopping out of the way. Why cast iron over regular metal? So, depends what you consider regular metal, because there are basically like 3 styles of pans. There's like aluminum, there's going to be cast iron, and then there's going to be stainless steel. Okay, cast iron is going to distribute the heat very evenly across the entire surface, and it's going to hold that heat for a very long time. Whenever you add something to a pan and wants to cool down, and then it needs to come back up to temp, we call that a rebound. So cast iron absorbs that and responds to that very, very well. It holds heat very well. Sandwich stainless steel is kind of the big thing right now. They're kind of the bigger pans that you can get out there nowadays. That's what they are, and they're great. They're very good for searing, but it is not it's a stainless steel surface, so things are going to stick to it. So it's only good if you're going to make like pan sauces, or I could have made the pizza sauce in that. You can get a big enough one. I can make soup in it if I wanted to. So that's why those are. And then you have aluminum. And I would also put blue steel in this very, very thin, this thin range, because what it is they are so thin and so quick to heat. They get hot very fast, but they also cool down very fast. So they have this kind of, like, you need to balance where they heat. But generally speaking, those tend to be less expensive pans, and they're very easy to make. But aluminum comes with its own problems. It's reactive to acids and things like that, which isn't great. So I didn't used to buy into the whole cast iron thing. Okay, it wasn't until I got my big Le Creuset pot that's enamel coated inside, and I started using it, that I just fell in love with it. And I'm like, I use it for, if I'm cooking one of those pots, and you can see them over here behind me, one of those pots is kind of always on the stove doing something, because it's so easy to manage and very easy to clean. Grandma's cast iron. This guy is great if I need to sear something. If I just cooked like pork chops the other day and I need to sear them, you know, I get that sucker nice and hot, and it just gives me good, nice sear all across the surface. And again, part of that's because it doesn't cool down so fast. So that's a lot of answer for a relatively simple question. All right. I realized my rag went on top of my pizza dough. Which is, it's about 25% bigger than it was. We're going to keep going though. I want to finish frying up the bacon. We can, if we're going to cook the chicken and the bacon on the same pizza, which is what we're doing, there's a lot of flavor in this pan. So there's all this bacon fat. My bacon's almost cooked. I'm going to throw my chicken in here. Now, my chicken's cooked. If it wasn't cooked, I would wait and then fry it separately. But you want to put pretty much cooked ingredients on top of a pizza, okay? Now, that bacony flavor is mixing with that chicken, and now it's getting all coated. Oh, this is starting to remind me of the best pizza I used to get in California. I worked at California Pizza Kitchen for like 3 years, and we had this one pizza. It was called the Chicken Club. The dumbest thing you ever had. Like, I like good traditional pizza. This one was just neat. It had just cheese, and then it had like chicken, bacon. We tossed lettuce with mayo, and then we put avocado on top. I mean, how California is it, right? But it was so good. It was so good. It was like eating like a warm club sandwich. It was not necessarily a pizza, but oh so good. All right. So there we go. So our toppings are done. Now, a quick word on our ricotta mix here. Let me turn off. Yeah, we'll turn off that. Wow, I am really having stream. My stream just keeps getting like a little weak here and there. It's really struggling today. So I just have some whole milk ricotta cheese. And what I did with this guy was I just seasoned it with some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder just to give it some flavor. I hate it when people just throw ricotta on something and it has no flavor. Like, that's just not, no, don't do that to me. I don't want that. So I just did that, and I whisked it up in here. So I had this from a calzone that I had the other day. So I thought it would be, let's do another one. So we're going to do a pizza and a calzone. So that's what that is. So there is that. My oven is at about 500 degrees right now. And there is a pizza stone in it. Now, I get it. Not everybody has a pizza stone or wants to go buy one. That's fine. Ask your neighbors. And if it's something you use, then, you know, go buy one yourself. That's exactly what I did. I'm like, is this something I'm going to use? I mean, it cost as much as 2 pizzas, right? But if this is something I'm going to use, you know, I think it was $30 on sale. Well worth having in your kitchen. I leave it in the oven. I keep it in my second oven, and then I just pull it out when I need it. Like, I don't do anything fancy with it. Really good. If you do not have one, take a baking sheet and put it upside down in the oven, okay? And then that can be, let that get nice and hot before, put it in at 500 degrees. All right, now the problem is that these will warp, okay, because 500 degrees is usually pushing how much these guys can do. But at least it'll give you a start, and then you can get your pizza right on that for a while. There's another method where you could actually start the pizza in a cast iron skillet. Get a skillet nice and hot, and then put your dough in it, and then put it in the oven. And then the skillet kind of works like a stone because it can hold those higher heats. So there are other options, so feel free to check them out. The one in the skillet kind of came out a little pan pizza-like, you know, because you use a little more oil in the bottom and things like that, so it's not quite as light. Yeah, David, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. All right, so let me realign our cooking cam. Alrighty, so we are going to see if I can do that. All right. Okay, so I have cooking cam set up for the next stretch. Now, let's get back to our dough. So our dough has been sitting out for, oh, it's heavy, about, what's this, about 30 minutes. It's a decent amount of dough, so this is not risen enough yet. I want this to double, which, if you remember the ball, it's going to get much bigger. So it's probably going to take about an hour for this big double batch to actually get nice and get going. It's going to happen when you have that much yeast trying to do the job. So I'm going to continue to leave this out, but I did a batch beforehand, and what I got was, all right. Pizza sauce is getting nice and thick. All right. So what I did was I had cooked. I had our dough ball, and I pulled it out, and then basically all I did was I chopped it. Now the recipe I did there is going to give me 8 portions. I have 4. Because I did a single batch beforehand. And then again, lightly covered them. If you don't need them right away, the second proof you can just leave in the fridge. That's completely fine. If, however, you don't need it right away, throw it straight in the fridge, leave it up to overnight. It will rise in the fridge and then get poofy like this, which is fine. If it gets overproof, that's fine too. You could also take it like this, put it in the fridge for an hour, let it get chilled all the way through, and then throw it right in the freezer. Okay, so you have options with pizza dough, which is pretty cool. But you can kind of see this is kind of airy and poofy. And all I did was I took that ball, cut it into 4, and then I basically just rolled it into 4 smaller balls of roughly the same size. Okay. So we're going to work with 2 of these. The other 2 we're going to save for a later date. But having a cool dough is completely fine. It's kind of normal. If you can let it come up to room temp before you use it, that would be good. This was only in the fridge for about an hour. Okay, so special piece of equipment. Number 2 is this is what's called a pizza peel. Now, again, you don't have to use one of these. As long as you have a surface that you can transport once you get your pizza made, that's all you need. This literally, it's kind of hard to tell. This was a piece of plywood I had in my garage, like an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch sheet of plywood. And I just cut it and sanded it, and it's my pizza peel, and it didn't cost me anything. But they are definitely handy. David asks, is there a difference between pizza sauce and pasta sauce? And absolutely. I'd say pizza sauce is designed to be really, really thick and carry a lot more flavor per bite, because as you're going to see, we don't use nearly as much pizza sauce on a pizza. So we need a little bit to go a long way, is what it boils down to. So yes, different. And oregano for me. I don't like oregano in my pasta sauces, but I love oregano in my pizza sauce because it belongs there. All right, so this. I didn't realize how much stuff I'd be throwing at you guys today. I apologize in advance. So you could use flour, and flour is fine, but flour will burn on your stone and potentially on the bottom of the pizza. So usually one would use semolina flour, which is a little larger and will also allow the pizza to slide a little bit more. And then the third option, which is what I use because I can't be bothered to buy semolina, is this is flour with a little bit of cornmeal mixed in. Probably about 50-50. And what that does is it gives it that kind of gritty texture that will help the pizza roll off a little bit more. All right. And I'm just going to lightly sprinkle that on my board. Now, you have a couple ways to do this. You don't have to, if you're not comfortable doing this, stretching dough, you could use a rolling pin. That's completely acceptable. All right. So the only problem with the rolling pin method is you won't get that lip around the crust because your pizza will be even. So that lip is not going to be like, it's not going to rise up like a New York style that you might be used to. All right. So what I do is, maybe I should have left you the can. Yeah, too late now. Is I'm just kind of making a ring around the outside, okay? And I'm just kind of pushing in here and just kind of gently shoving out. And you're going to see me work this with my fingertips first, and then slowly I kind of move to the edge, and then I'm going to eventually move to the whole side of my hand. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of doing this. I'm just lightly pulling out. And what you're going to have is you're going to have in the center, you're going to have a little mound of dough. And that is what we want to stretch. All right. And then I'm just kind of keep pushing that little crust to the outside. And then eventually you start getting in there with the whole hand. Don't try to go all at once, especially if you're using cold dough. All right, it's gonna take a few minutes. If it's being too springy, then the problem is that it will rip. All right, we don't want that. So the gritty mix on the bottom of pizza in a restaurant, yeah, generally they use like a cornmeal because it's cheaper. Semolina is more expensive. Some places will use semolina, but cornmeal is a good cheap substitute. All right, and then once we kind of have the shape, now these pizzas aren't meant to be huge, but what I'm doing is I'm using the back of my hands, no rings, if you got big gaudy rings or something, all right, and I'm just kind of gently pulling on the back of my hands. All right, and you'll see the pizza guys will actually use their knuckles out here. And they're just going around the edge. Let's see if I can do this without tearing. I will be amazed. When I worked in pizza shops, we did them both ways. We did them by hand tossed. The tossing. So what the tossing is it's, think about it. We have our heavy ring on the outside. So the tossing is kind of a, is a centrifugal force kind of forcing that pizza to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it allows you to pull a ball that weighs, like, this is a 4-ounce ball roughly, and it allows you to take a 4-ounce ball and get a nice, like, 12-inch pizza or something very quickly. But again, that nice thin crust, if you can kind of see through, you can see the dark areas, right? Can you see that? I can, but I'm also looking at the lights. All right, but just take your time. This is the fun part. I'm just lightly, ever so lightly pulling. If you get a tear, you want a tear? You want a tear? Like, come on, I'm impressed. This isn't doing anything here. Good dough today. All right, if you get a tear, you can put it back together. It's not the end of the world. First, as soon as you get the tear, just stop, get it on your board, and then kind of pinch it closed. If you got a piece, take another piece, put it on top, and then give it a good whack and cover it back up. All right, now make sure you have a good amount of this stuff on the bottom. All right. So we have our pizza. It's roughly a 12-inch pizza. Pretty good, right? Not bad. What we'll do sometimes is we'll draw a circle on the board if you need to do that, so that you kind of keep everything roughly the same size. And you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. I made, you can just take this dough and stretch it and almost make like a flatbread with it. And that's completely cool too. All right. It's not trying to shrink. I mean, it's doing it a little bit, but it's not too much. All right, so we got our sauce. I kind of feel like I need to move our cooking cam back so you can kind of see what's going on here. So let's see. Boom. High tech here, people, high tech. It also doesn't help that I move rooms that I do my streaming in constantly. All right, that's not helping matters at all. So let's look at that. There you go. All right, so there's our pizza dough. And what I was doing was I was just lightly pulling as I'm stretching here, just lightly, ever so gently, just kind of pulling it out. All right. And if you get a rip in it, just take the rip, cover it back up, and give it a good whack. All right. So there you go. So Pizza Cam is back. Have our board. This is very free on here. Okay, you should be able to do that. If you can't do that, stop. Get some more flour under there. Go grab some off your board. All right. If you can't do it now, you're not going to do it when you get the weight of the pizza sitting on top of it. Okay. So make sure you can do that. All right. So, pizza sauce. All right. You don't need a lot. Okay. Now, the problem here is the heavier you make your pizza, the harder it's going to be to get it off this board. All right. And a little goes a long way. So this is maybe about 2 ounces. I'm going to pour it in the center, and then I'm going to use the back of the ladle and just kind of push it out. All right, I need a little more. All right, we don't need much. You could also use like an Alfredo sauce if you want. If you want a white pizza, we could just use plain cheese. All right, but we don't need much. All right, I don't want to see like all sauce across that whole bottom. All right, just like that. Now, pro tip number 2, try to leave the center a little open, right? Because we got to cut through that. So it makes sense if you try not to top the center, when things kind of fall in, then your center should be kind of free of ingredients. All right. Now we got some mozzarella. Now, I'll tell you, I tried to make some fresh mozzarella the other day, and the milk apparently was wrong. It was labeled as pasteurized, but it was not. It was ultra pasteurized, which if you make any cheese, that does not work. And I just wound up with a bunch of cottage cheese, which I was not happy with. So my plan was to show you some of my fresh mozzarella. That did not work. All right. Again, with the cheese, we don't want to go crazy. You know, I should still be able to see some of that tomato sauce through there. That's fine. That's cool. I don't like the pizza blends because I don't like cheddar on my pizza. If you do, that's you. That's fine. That's cool. You do you. And then we're going to take some of that awesome bacon chicken that we had before. Now, I think the other pizza I might make with this would be to do this with a white pizza and then maybe drizzle some ranch dressing on top because, you know, you get a little fancy. All right. You could certainly lay out pepperoni, but again, ignore the center bit. See here how I really don't have anything in the center. That's just kind of a pro tip, makes your life easier. Okay. And it gets it out of the way. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take the cam here. Let me do this because I want to show you getting it in the oven here. I think it's important to see. We're going to put that back. Quality TV. You guys are getting so much production value here, right? So much. All right. And then let me give you, there you go. Look, it's an oven. All right, so there's our pizza stone sitting in there. And this slides right off. Okay? That right there is the beauty of that cornmeal mix and, you know, making sure you don't overload your pizza. That's what that is. That's how that just slid right off. Rolled right on the cornmeal. All right, you also came to see a calzone. So let's kind of, while our pizza's cooking, and that should be ready about 10, 12 minutes. Let's grab another dough ball. All right, so the bottom of the dough ball here is a little sticky. Can I do an oven cam from the inside the oven from the back? Sure, you send me a new oven, Patrick, and I will be happy to do a oven cam like that because I think we all know those ovens aren't working, right? All right, so for calzone, we're gonna do the exact same thing, all right, as we did for the pizza. All right, I'm gonna leave the oven cam on, but you know what? I think I am gonna move it. So let's, I'm gonna hop back in here and we are gonna take, see the fancy, we can move this. We're going to move it over. Over to that side. There you go. All right. And we're going to, now I don't care for the calzone. I don't care about the whole, oh, do I have a nice lip like that? I don't care because the calzone is going to be flat. So I got my new rolling pin. I'm really excited about this rolling pin. All right. We're just going to roll this out. This is what's called a French rolling pin. All right. It doesn't have the handles, so you don't get that bendy, wobbly thing. And it kind of allows you to control nice, even pressure over a long area. All right. Which I dig. All right, also notice I'm constantly flipping and moving and rotating my dough here. All right. We are. Now, calzone, I really want to be pretty even all the way across. Maybe a little thinner around the edge if I really want to get technical. But it's not that big a deal. All right. But again, I just want a circle. So as you can see, that was pretty quick work, right? So the two parts of that. Number one is my dough is warming up, and now that it's out of the fridge. And number two is a rolling pin. You know, that's literally what it was designed for, right? All right, so for the calzone, kind of think of this like an omelet. So we fold it. All right, we got that. So let me come back. Man, I kind of feel like I want to give you guys, like, I feel like I need all these cameras. I get it now why people do that. You know, you kind of want it, but I think you need to see. All right. Helps if you don't fall over though, buddy. There you go. All right. You like my blue tape? Yeah. Stupid webcam has a dial on it, but it keeps popping out. So I'm like, knowing I was going to manhandle it, I decided to keep it out. Cool, cool. All right. So we have our dough. We rolled it out. It's about the same size as our pizza, right? Because that's going to be about that size. Now, when it comes to this, again, what do you want on the bottom? Because you don't want it soggy on the bottom. That would be that'd be up for the soggy bottom boys, and that's not what we're doing. So I'm going to put the cheese on the bottom first, and I'm just going to give it a good smear. And I'm going to stay away from the edge by about an inch. All right. Just get a nice even layer here. Boop. Done. We have our diced chopped ham. Put a good amount. My wife, this is really for Sharon. She loves good ham calzones. So, you know. If we could afford to eat out every single day and give back to the local stores, we most certainly would. However, we are not financially viable to be able to do that, so I try to do the best I can. We eat out once a week, and then it gives me an opportunity to cook, which, if you haven't figured out, I kind of like to do. All right. Now, if I wanted some sauce, I would do that now, okay? But again, Sharon doesn't like sauce on her calzones. She likes just cheese and ham. So we're going to put some of that mozzarella, again, good amount. Calzone should be nice and cheesy. But that's going to go on top. Okay. Now, what are we going to do here? All right. We're going to take this guy. We're going to fold it across. And I kind of want to not get a lot of air inside this calzone. It's like a big ravioli, okay? There's a lot of air in there. It'll push up. The dough's going to do that already, but I don't want a lot of hollow. So I'm just going to kind of squeeze it out, and then I'm just going to kind of tamp around the edge a little bit, just to kind of help get that all in there. All right. And again, I can move it around, right? Now, pay attention to the little cam here. Let me I think you guys, if you're gonna help me out and give to Patreon, thank you. But I don't think we need to see that anymore. So we'll turn that off. Thank you if you do that, by the way. It is certainly appreciated and helpful. But anyway, getting back to this. So I have my corners and I want to seal this edge. I'm gonna make it look like rope. This is also the same way I would do what's called empopiote. I would put my fish in here, and this would be paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this corner, and I'm going to fold it over. And then I'm going to keep doing that, and keep folding it in. All right, so I'm going to fold it in, and then kind of push it down. So this end here is going to come over and in. And notice how the seam is on the downside, okay? See that seam right there, right? That's where the two come together. I'm going to grab that and flop it over. Boom. All right. And I'm just kind of giving a little tug as I do that. And just kind of get that fold. Get a little twist in there. And then keep going all the way to the end And then you get that little knot, just kind of give it a good twist. All right. So there we go. Last thing we need to do is we need to give air a place to go. So we're going to boom, boom, boom. All right. There you go. Now that's ready. Now we are going to switch back over here, guys, to the, we're going to move the cam. So let's move FrigiCam. You're getting a full tour of my kitchen today, but this pizza is looking gorgeous. So let's go take a look at it. Now I got a nice big spatula. Oh. And we're gonna look. All right, I wanna look at the bottom, make sure it comes up in one whole piece. And look at that, wow. That's like perfect. All right, amazing. And then we're gonna take our calzone and slide him in as well. Boom. All right. Now I hope you noticed something there, and that was the fact that I did not use my pizza peel to take anything out of the oven. Once my pizza was cooked, it did not go back on the peel. All right, use something else. I mean, my pizza, it should have a nice crispy bottom. It shouldn't be soggy and droopy. So being able to grab it with a nice spatula should happen, okay? Now, if you want to go get a little fancy, we can do that. Let us, say, grab a pastry brush. We could put a little olive oil on it and maybe brush our pizza edge real quick. All right. Just like that. All right, and then if you have any, like a nice light garlic salt, you just kind of take that and we'll just kind of drizzle that around the crust. I'm not a crust eater, okay? But if you put a little garlic salt on it, I'll tear that up, okay? You could also just make like a little fresh garlic oil, whatever you want. That kind of helps give it a little something special. All right. I kind of feel like we have to do this right. Cut straight through. All right, so we cut the crust and push all the way through. And there we have our chicken bacon pizza with a nice crust. Look at that. Woo. Now I know you're not going to understand this, but that's going to be hot. All right. I would call this kind of like a New York style crust, Patrick. It's got a little bit of rise to it, but you could easily use this for a pan pizza. Like when we knocked it down and rolled it out, if you leave that a little, don't knock it down so much and leave it fluffy and put it with some oil in a pan, you could get a pan out of it. Or if you wanted to just kind of roll it flat. This also is very similar to the dough I used to use for like California Pizza Kitchen. So if you wanted to make like a white pizza or something like that, it would be great for that. So all very good stuff. One of the other things we used to do is called a pizzetta. And pizzetta is, we would take a dough, we would roll it out, and we would just put some olive oil on it, and we would sprinkle it with Parmesan cheese, cover it with that, and then just kind of a nice fresh cracked rosemary, salt, and pepper on it. Oh, so good, so good. So you don't need a ton of ingredients to make pizza. I mean, what? Chicken, bacon, we made a little sauce. If you buy sauce, you're not a horrible person. You're just lazy. If you buy sauce, you're fine. You're fine. But come on. I mean, how long did that sauce take? It took half an onion. It took a clove of garlic, some dried herbs you already have laying around, and like a few minutes. Like, come on. That pizza sauce was done in 20 minutes. So especially something really, really bright and fresh like this, you do not need a lot of time. So, just think about that. Why not try and get fresh? Now, I would normally like to turn my pizza halfway through cooking as well. So in this case, we didn't do that because we were making our calzone and it was cooking wicked fast. But let's go take a peek at our calzone and see how it's doing. Oh, look at that. Oh, she's looking good. So that guy's going to come out and he's going to be amazing and exciting, and I'm pretty happy about that. So, hey guys, I call this a successful day. I think I'm going to make one more, and I'm going to make a white pizza that we can have tonight, and that'll be good. And I think I'm going to call it done. Put that chicken bacon on some white pizza. What makes a white pizza is just some olive oil on the bottom with cheese. You could put a garlic sauce if you want, but that's not traditional white pizza. White pizza is just a little bit of olive oil, and then season it, a little salt, a little pepper on that, crack it on. You'll be happy. All right, so there you go. Hopefully y'all make some pizza. It's not that hard. I mean, it requires a few tools, I'm not gonna lie, but man, good stuff, right? So thanks for watching this week. Sorry it's Friday, not Thursday. I'll be back on Sunday where I'm going to design the Fiasco set. We're going to do that digitally, probably in Photoshop. So if you want to see us kind of putt around and see what we're going to draw. I have no idea what it is yet, but we'll see it then. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy it. Cook some pizza, have some fun, and be safe out there, man. Take care of each other. Be kind to somebody. You don't know what day they're having. And thanks to everybody again. So have a good one, and we'll see you next time on I Do Stuff.